Hi, everybody, and welcome to a conversation of Time for Tribe. My name is Jason Giel, and I'm super excited to be with you today. We're here to talk to Zoe Alowan and Bill Kauth about tribe building and community building. This is a crowdcast webinar that you find yourself in. My company is Stream of Consciousness, and we seek to amplify the emerging wisdom of the world. I look for people like these fine folks who are doing deep work in the world. And in this case, I met Bill and Zoe through our Ecovillage in Shawnigan Lake, where they're going to be hosting an upcoming 3-day workshop on the new tribe training, which I take to be an evolution of the work you guys have been doing for a really long time. So I'm excited to learn more and hear about that. I'm going to be relinquishing my participation here and turning it over to my friends and floating in the background while they do the work that they do. I'll let you guys introduce yourself a bit more deeply and then take it away. And just for our guest today, our format is the next 45 minutes. Bill and Zoe will be talking about sort of the top level of their work and giving us a sneak peek of what they're up to. And then there'll be a question and answer period towards the end. Bill, Zoe, thanks for joining us so much.
Thank you, Jason, and bless your mission, amplifying the wisdom of the world with the fabulous high-tech stuff that I don't particularly understand, but stepping into it here.
And we are very honored to have this opportunity to share something so dear to our hearts and something that's so close to our mission of building committed, connected communities of people coming together with a deeper connection than we've had in a very, very long time as humans. So it's really an honor for us to be here with you. What we often like to do when we're doing coaching calls, because we do a lot of coaching on this as well, is we start our calls with lighting a candle, and we're going to invite everybody to blow that candle out at the end with all of our collective breaths. So here I come with a flame, and I am lighting this candle of connection. You can hopefully see there's a flame
there. It
there.
is. Yay.
And so it's burning for us.
Amplifying the light of interpersonal connection and love.
So I just like to start with just a little bit of a breath and breathing together. This is sacred work for us. So it's like, in a human being's life that lives to about 80 years, they have like about 700 million breaths. And this is one of those breaths. So let's just breathe together for a moment. It takes 3 different breaths and imagine that we're like breathing in the fragrance of a rose. And we're going to hold it and then breathe out like we're blowing out a candle flame. So just get centered in this moment together. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and out. And one more time, breathing in and out. And just knowing that as we are allowing our breath to breathe us, recognizing that it is the first gift that we receive as we come into this world is the breath of life, and that we know those of you who are going to be resonant with this work, we see you being inspired and carrying this forward into wherever you live and cherishing the people there and the place where you live. And so that is.
Beautiful, thanks. So let me open with a little context here. Zoe and I met at Burning Man about 12 years ago and discovered that each of us had, no pun intended, but we had a burning desire to have community in different ways. We had different experiences and plenty of failures, which creates an opportunity to learn what we need to learn to do it properly. So we took on that challenge, which has been, I gotta say, it's been the more significant challenge in my life. And I've done, 32 years of men's work now with the Mankind Project, which I helped launch back in '84. And it took us 7 years to successfully build a community. That's why we're here. We want to teach you how to do it, because it's not easy, and we finally figured out what works, and that's our intention here today. And
well, I just wanted to share that yesterday I got a call from my college roommate's husband. She's no longer living, but he called me yesterday, and he said that he ran into a mutual friend, and she explained to him what we're doing, and he hadn't understood it before, even though I shared with him some time ago. So I immediately called her and I said, okay, what did you tell Bob? What did you say? And she goes, well, it's very easy. I said, many communities blow up. They just fall apart because they don't have common agreements. They don't have common values, agreed upon values. They don't have a conflict resolution piece. And Bill and Zoe are creating communities where people start with that. And so they have a far better possibility of success because those things are in place. And I thought that's what we do.
Yeah, that's a really lovely, simple overview of what we figured out that actually works. And our tribe is, I think it's 4.5 years old now, which means that we've been together, all 20 of us, every single week for 4.5 years. And just to give you a kind of a context, our tribes, our community is non-residential, which means that we each live in our own homes. And somebody volunteers to make their place available each week, and we kind of round robin. And we have different leaders every week that bring in their different skill sets and delightful thing of the week that they have to offer to guide us through. And so it's face to face every single week. And we've been committed since the beginning. We also have a ceremony. We do lots of ceremony like the one Zoe did to open, just to mark the passage of our lives together. So every year we have a really beautiful recommitment ceremony in which each of us is given an opportunity to step up and recommit to the tribe for the next year.
Kind of some of my background is I spent 14 years living in a residential artist community, and I learned what it's like to live together up close and some of the incredible journeys that requires. I think what we've moved into here is this great respect between men, women, and those of gender fluidity, because there aren't just two genders. And I just want to emphasize that. You may hear me say men and women, but I really mean all people with all of their unique differences. But when we first came together in our initial conversation at Burning Man there, it was talking about the possibility of conscious women coming together with conscious men, where everybody's needs are respected and heard. And for a long time, women doing their own work and men doing men's work, they weren't ready to come together. There's a classic story. Who is that guy that wrote about that? You write about it in your circle, Ben. Dane and Perry. Do you want to just share that story?
That was easy 25, 30 years ago, where he had some sense that maybe it was time for men and women to reconnect in a good way. So the men went into the woods and the men went into on the beach and the women went into the forest, and they each spent a couple of days separate, just the men and women separate. And then when they thought it was time to come back together, they started approaching each other, and they could feel their bodies were changing a little bit. They were tightening up as they got closer, and they came and they looked at each other and basically said, soon, but not yet. So that was 25, 30 years ago. And we believe it's actually, it really is time for the genders to really feel deeply safe with each other. So that's one of the significant things. It's part of how we got into this. There was a training which we did at Harbin, bless Harbin before it got burnt, where we did our individual father work and mother work, and then we went to a kind of a hybrid training called Clearing the Air, which was deep safety between men and women. And in order to even get into that seminar, we had a promise not to have sex with anybody in that seminar forever.
Okay, pause. I want to say that we were in different trainings.
Yeah.
So I introduced Bill to some of this when I met him at Burning Man. I talked about my experience of having these brothers for the first time. So,
and that context created so much safety that we were all able to pretty much transcend our adolescent games with each other and really meet with each other in a safe way. So Zoe and I, we love that community. We wanted to hang out with them, but we'd have to drive 5 hours south to be with them. And so we wanted that same feeling, that same euphoria of bliss of being, safe with a community, a group of people. We wanted it in our town. We wanted it right here in Ashland. So we went about working to make that happen. And the list of failures is fairly long, so I won't bother you with that, but I'm really willing to fail to learn, and I did a lot until we finally figured it out. And what we're going to do is go through some of the highlights of what we found that actually works so that you can get a feel for that.
We were very inspired at some point in our work together by Charles Eisenstein. And we brought him out here to do a couple of different events, and one of them was a 3.5-day training. And it was called Seeding the Gift Culture. And our project that we are doing has become one of those seeds that has really blossomed.
Seeds grown up.
We also brought in Diane Leaf Christians, who was editor of Communities Magazine for a long time, and brought her in for a 2 or 3 day seminar. And she taught us a lot about what to watch for that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And what we've discovered is really pertinent for both residential communities as well as non-residential communities.
Yeah, and I've done an awful lot of research, and there's nothing that really guides us in this direction in terms of creating what we're creating. And like the men's work that I got launched 32 years ago, there was no models for that either. We had to make it up and then tweak to make sure that it was, safe and powerful and all that. We're doing the same thing. We're kind of making this up, and we figured out what works. So we'd like to walk you through some of those specifics. Yeah. So the first one is that, and this came from my era. I started back in, just after college. It seems like every decade. So this was 40 years ago. I got settled into Milwaukee at the time. And I thought, hey, this town, I've got a whole bunch of friends. So I called everybody together and said, let's build community. It'll be great. And that didn't work out. So, 10 years later, I'm in another situation, got friends around. So I gathered them all together and said, hey, let's build community. And they all said, Bill, that's a great idea. And that group never met again either. And then 10 years later, I did the same thing. And finally, I got to Ashland. I figured this is the most conscious community ever. So I gathered together a whole bunch of terrific men and said, let's build community. And they said, Bill, that's a great idea. And then that was the last time that group ever met. So, the working definition of insanity where,
that's it.
Doing the same thing and expecting different results. So, here's the big learning we got from that is that our tribe or community actually starts with one person. We call him a champion or a founder. And then that one gets another one and shares the vision. And if that vision is solid, the values ring true, and the structure feels like it's going to work, then your tribe is 2. And then you reach out to a third one or maybe a couple and share the vision, share the values. And if they can resonate with that and feel the possibility and can see the vision, the possibility of having a loving tribe, then you got 4. I mean, I'm going through this really tediously, but that honestly is what works.
But the tricky part about that's very tricky for us who've come out of the 60s and the kind of like the wanting everybody to be included is stepping into another kind of, spiral dynamics, looking into stepping from the green into the yellow into the next level. But there's a worldview that talks about this in spiral dynamics, is that place of there are gifts to all of these different worldviews, such as the worldview that had involved hierarchy. And people are like, oh, I'm afraid to hold point or hold authority for even a limited period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's really necessary for this work.
Yeah, good point. The champions actually know that they're going to be stepping back 6 months to a year or so. Once the tribe is mature enough to run itself, there's no need for the hierarchy anymore. So they just step back, and we had a beautiful ceremony in which our tribe invited us to step back, and we were so ready. And now what feels wonderful to me is to be able to go to my tribe meeting every week and not have to lead it. I actually can just be one of the Joes in the group and be guided by the brilliance of everybody else.
So we presented that up front to the people that we were bringing in, saying, this is not our idea to be the head honchos of this forever. We want to be co-creators with everybody else. Now that's a really unique thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of communities that last have a very powerful, dynamic founder or spiritual teacher that is holding point. And that's what holds people together.
And that also disempowers everybody.
But it disempowers everybody else.
So this is a different model. It's actually a model of peers, of equals, that's designed to be that way from the beginning. And I want to talk a little bit about the word tribe. For years, we used the word community, and eventually felt it was just too big. Everything's a community. There's the international community, and there's the Oregon community, and there's the dance community, and the song community, and the natural foods community. Everything is a community. So we decided to use a word that was a little more precise, which is tribe, which basically means those people that feel this powerful affinity with each other and almost like they're related, because that's where we're going.
And if people eventually want to move together to be a land-based community.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, the benefits of starting with a community where you live in your own home, but you meet once a week and you have shared agreements, and you have a shared conflict resolution model, and a shared understanding about transparency around sexuality. Yeah. These are things we're going to talk about.
It's a conversation I've been having with people for years, and they so want to live together community that and I keep saying, don't you think it would be better to put your people together and learning to love and know and trust each other first? And they say, good idea, but they don't do it. So anyway, that's a thing I've been wrestling with for a long time. I'd like to move on to bridging and bonding.
Yeah.
There's a thing I learned from a guy named Peter Block, who has written some just astonishingly beautiful books on community. And he talks about Robert Putnam, who wrote the book called Bowling Alone, and who makes a distinction between bridging communities and bonding communities. And bridging communities are ones in which the people get together to be of service to somebody, to help women, or to help homeless people, or to help kids, or to help folks that are handicapped, or something like that. They're bridging out to be of service. Now, the other kind is bonding. In the bonding groups it's all about us. It's about us. We get together and we focus on us. Now, that sounds a little funny, but the potency of that is astonishing. And that's what our tribe is, by the way. It's a bonding group. And having, guided MKP, 30 years ago, I've watched literally thousands and thousands of integration groups, men's support groups, and they're all bonding groups. It's all about focusing on them, the men in the group. And what happens is that the growth is so powerful and so dynamic that within a year or 2 or 3, however long it takes, any given individual man, there's a maturation that happens. There's a kind of a maturity in which his life starts working at a level where he's feeling actually fulfilled, and kind of realizes that there's nothing to do at this point but give. And then, because in the mankind work, we actually invite each man to a transpersonal mission, he's already got that built in. So then he just goes and finds that mission and begins building a bridging project to be of service. So that's the distinction I want you to have between bonding and bridging groups. And the tribes are about bonding.
Well, there's many bridging events that happen out of our structure.
Oh, yeah.
We've been together for 4.5 years, and we've done some amazing things when somebody takes on a project, many people will jump in, and such as raising money for those who are food challenged in our valley. Mm-hmm. We've really participated in that for 4 years quite actively, and making quite an impression.
Yeah, which deepens the bond of our tribe when we take on those projects.
Yeah. So I want to just speak. Are you complete with that? Or
yeah,
that
feels
more
complete.
On that. But that we have a very clear numbers of values that we've arrived at, and we have also agreements that we ask people to make, and we have discovered that by our establishing the values in the beginning, it saves years of people who are coming together wanting to form a community, maybe around a co-housing community, maybe around a piece of land. And it just saves years if we can present some very essential values to begin with. And then what our tribe did after 3 years is they said, we want to, after everybody was members, they said, I want to fine tune that. Now we have 20 people in our tribe. And they decided, okay, we're going to fine tune that. So they came to so appreciate how we had some basic guidelines for that, because they said, oh my gosh, it would have taken us forever to make agreements. And we worked a lot of that till everybody was absolutely on board.
Yeah.
It was a powerful process.
So the point is, imagine you bring together 10 people and you say, okay, so what values should we have? And you've got 10 strong, clear egos, and everybody's got different ideas. Seriously, it could take many, many months, if not years. So we simply offer some values, such as choosing place. We choose to stay here. We're committed to this place. These values, incidentally, are also the commitments that we ask for, and commitment to each other. It's a value. Personal integrity, tell the truth. Gender healing in this time of gender conflict is difficult. Authentic interdependence. And then we have a spiritual one we call celebration of relationship with divine presence. And that was the most difficult one, because there's 10,000 names for God. So
we were able to kind of distill that down to reverence. We have a value of reverence. And because we do a lot of ceremony, we have the audacity to do ceremony, create our own rituals. It's so fun that we have realized that everybody in our group holds that as a value, reverence. But they didn't agree after 3 years to that way that was worded. So that was okay. We worked it out. And
as founders, once we were de-rolled, I found I was still a little attached to some of those things, particularly that one, as we worked for months to come up with that. But I took a deep breath and let it go, and wasn't that hard. And now I feel just fine about it. So the other thing is that we offer some basic structure that we consider really important. And again, it's the sort of thing that would take months and months if a group were trying to put it together. So you kind of get the feel here for the founders or the champions offer these kind of generic values and structure, and they're easy to buy into. And once the group matures and is more autonomous, they can change anything they want just as a group process. So here's some of the structural things. And they're really obvious. Like, we meet face to face. We live near each other. Again, real obvious. We make long-term commitment. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And there's a very specific way to bring members in. And that's complicated. That we really suggest that you follow our advice, which is rooted in the fraternal organizations that were enormously dominant around the turn of the last century, and they actually served a safety net function before Social Security and that sort of thing came in. It's a complicated story, but that's where our membership process came from. It's been used millions and millions of times successfully, so it's a rather it's a provisional membership period where people get to see, is this really a fit for me? Yeah, is this really a fit for everybody? And then safety around sexuality is one of our structural things. Yeah, it took us forever to put together a governance thing too, but that's we don't actually offer that up front. And then ways to leave honorably, and then conflict resolution. We really ask for that and provide a model for that. We'll cover that a little bit more thoroughly shortly here. And in case of an involuntary exit, that's a very, very difficult thing if you don't have it up front. So we simply offer a simple model for that.
And those are some things that Diane Leaf Christian
really
emphasized that was important to put.
She's seen a lot of disasters, so she had some good advice for how to avoid those by setting them up front.
But I want to go back a little bit to choosing place. And I just want to speak about how hard that is for people in this culture. And this is one of the reasons why statistically friendship is on the decline. There's been all these studies of the United States from Duke University, who's really focused on sociology and understanding the patterns. And this is a very sudden pattern for humanity, that many people have no one to talk to. And that they're in the light of Facebook and all of these media where we can connect each other. Yes, it has its virtues, but it also has a strain on real relationships where people feel somebody's got their back.
Yeah.
So this is one of my big inspirations for being engaged in this, is that importance of choosing each other and also choosing to stay someplace. And things happen. You can't guarantee that somebody's going to stay in the same place or that they're going to live for X number of years, but at least we can aim for that, and we can say yes.
And when we run these trainings, and our next training is in Vancouver in a couple of weeks, we'll tell you about that. The first question we ask, and we do an interview with everybody that comes in, and the first question is, are you home? Are you home? Are you where you're going to stay? And if you're not, you may not be ready for this kind of a training. Sometimes we let people do it, assuming that they're going to find their place and settle in soon. But it really, really is important that folks stay put. Because, to imagine having a meeting every week, it takes some time to get to know people. So
that was one of people's biggest objections, because they're very busy people that are in our tribe. Oh my gosh. And they say, every week.
Yeah.
But now they figured it out. I just calendared in. People calendar it in.
It's the most precious thing for
and
them.
They show up. And it doesn't mean that people in our tribe don't travel, go to visit their families, go on vacations. It's not like we have to be here.
But what about those billions of people that go to church once a week? I've heard that it actually, that we start to forget who we are as humans if we don't connect with other humans at least once a week.
So now we look forward to it. And people who are in town, I'm in town. I can't conceive of missing tribe.
Yeah.
It's just I've missed so much. And if there is some reason why I'm going to miss, or anybody does, we let people know. And it's also evolved that this piece around when they were ready to say, okay, we'd like to actually take you up on your offer to de-roll you, because in order for us to take responsibility for this tribe fully, we need to do this de-rolling. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And
we already talked about that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to commitment. Commitment is the other thing, that we live in an astonishingly commitment-phobic culture. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because in some ways we've developed some really beautiful, autonomous, separate self-identities. And there's another evolutionary phase in which we let go of that and bond with others in a kind of a mutuality. It's actually a growth phase, and that involves commitment, very conscious, deliberate commitment to each other. And I already mentioned that we re-up our commitments in our tribe every year.
And one of the processes that we do is we do a deep process of seeing each other.
Ooh, our intimacy stuff.
This is pretty intimate, so it's not for everybody, because we will actually spend some time, maybe not every meeting, but once in a while, where we have as a process to say, I'm here to be seen. And then in twos, we walk around and look at each other and look really deeply at them and say, I see you.
Yeah,
I see you.
It's really a way of falling in love, and we have that capacity. It's in all of us, but we just put together a little structure in which it happens. And there's always resistance. We step through it into finding love again.
But one of the things is that Thomas Hubel, who talks about as he's traveled around, he's a spiritual teacher in Germany, and he was asked on a show, what do people most long for? And he basically said to be seen, that people feel that they long to be seen, to be really seen for who they are, seen to their essence and their core. And that's something that this gathering of people and this new tribe, as we're calling it, that we're doing for each other, and we're really growing by looking into the mirrors of each other. Is tremendous growth. And
the growth, in my sense, is that we all, from our childhood, we have what we might call like a love threshold. We can only tolerate so much. We can only tolerate
so much intimacy.
So much intimacy. Yeah. And that's why even those of us that have been in this tribe for years, when we come around to doing that process again, we kind of go, oh, okay, I can do this, and I step into it. I have to step through that little bit of anxiety, to raise my love threshold yet again. So it's a constant growth process.
There's really a lot we can talk about. I mean, you can tell we're enthusiastic about this, and there's so much. I mean, just the whole piece between all of the different genders and creating the safety. but for a group to really come together and gel, there needs to be an ability to create safety. And that's kind of like the outer rim of what we're doing here of creating connection, is the safety to be who they are and to know that they're going to be respected and seen and listened to. Yeah. And we also find that the inner, as you go past that outer rim of safety, if you think of this as a mandala, the next level is this ability for people to experience contentment. And contentment, I mean, that might be a good question to ask yourselves. When have you felt content? Truly content. Truly content, peaceful, and happy. And we sometimes have actually even had people share their contentment stories, which are deeply moving. But that ability to know contentment, accompanied by the safety, is what brings people to connection and to deep trust.
And in a way, what we're doing by creating an incredibly safe tribe is a place where I can go and feel completely content just being in that body of people. And it took me, after we derolled, it took me about a year. And so my level of sense of safety and belonging kept growing, week after week, until I had this experience of, it was as if I could just fall back, just my tribe would catch me every time. So that's like a little mini contentment story. I felt just seriously content with that knowing, with that experience.
And we do a lot of singing in our tribe as well as ritual. We think the power of singing together and is significant.
Could you give us a little demo of Longing to Belong?
Who's our wonderful friend in the Pacific Northwest? You want to say a little bit about our singing friend who taught us all these wonderful songs? Lawrence Cole.
Lawrence Cole, yeah. Oh boy,
Lawrence Cole.
Beautiful songs.
So we sing some of his songs. Many of them are adapted from poetry, famous poetry. But there's one song that we sing a lot now and then, and it's that song about our longing, and it's longing to belong, longing to be longed for, longing to belong. Hey, 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 longing to belong, longing to belong for, longing to belong. Hey, hey, hey. And sometimes we move into this place where we're connecting and we're holding each other, and we just move to this deep place of moving that word longing to belong into loving to be loved, loving to be loved, loving to be loved. Hey, 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 loving to be loved. So this is intimacy.
So we do lots of songs and poetry and just stuff, ceremony, ritual, all that stuff. It just kind of comes natural, and because we have a different leader every week, the stuff they bring forward is it's so beautiful.
So I'm looking at our time and
Yeah.
going, wow, it's going so fast.
I'd like to
Our
move to
time
this real quick.
together. I think we just want to talk a little bit about our conflict transformation process.
We call it transformation because from conflict comes the opportunity to go deeper into our hearts, into our shadows, and work some stuff personally because it's up, because somebody else is there. It's just we get triggered, and we take that as an opportunity to each grow from it. And the model that we've developed is a kind of a combo of the Mankind Project clearing and non-violent communication stuff. Plus, there's a special model that's been brought in from somewhere.
From our original group, the beginning group. We have another way of speaking about what this reminds me of. So when you're saying, you're speaking about the data of what happened and how you felt, and then going into this place like, oh yeah, what this reminds me from my early years, and doing the work to dig right into that.
Yeah.
And then going on with the rest and the empathy of being heard.
So, that's something we teach in detail because it's pretty specific, and mostly folks have to actually take the page and walk through the steps. But it works. We've tried it a bunch. We've tried it. We've
done it.
Yeah,
many times.
Stuff comes up as you grow.
Yeah.
And get close. Just triggers happen. It's a lot like a marriage. Our group of 20 of us, with our commitment, it's not like a group marriage in a way. And just like any marriage, stuff comes up, and you get to handle it. And the better you handle it, the more intimacy that you can generate. And
it makes the difference between, if you're going to say yes, I agree to do this, and if I can't just do it with you, I'm going to get another third person to work it, a safe person to help us through that. Because if you don't agree to that, you're going to run into your trigger. And if you don't feel safe enough to work it with somebody else, that's basically the end of that deepening. So it's very important that we have this agreed upon transformation, resolution, transformation model, because it's out of those shadows and out of that dark stuff that we've thrown in our shadow bag that we can also find our gold. And we've had some recent experiences that we've seen where people have triggered each other, and again, they have not been willing to do that with really sad results. So we're glad we have that model in peace. It doesn't mean that sometimes people don't go get therapy outside when they stumble into something. We've also had people in our tribe say, hey, I'm stuck. I need to get some help on something. And the tribe has come together to pony up some resources for them for therapy, for 10 sessions of therapy. So, but the willingness to come forward and say, hey, I'm really stuck on something was so transparent that everybody was like, yeah, I've got her back. I'm going to help. So that is a very crucial part.
We take care of each other.
Yeah.
I want to move on to talking about, we've been doing this for years, and we found that it's difficult to find people who are actually willing to step into the role of hierarchy. And they seem to be afraid of it. And but we are so encouraging people to actually do that, to step into the coaching, to holding the authority of being the champion for their tribe, of actually inviting people and then training them. This is the other piece that we haven't actually mentioned, but what we found is that each person coming in actually needs to go through a specific training so that they can learn and integrate the intimacy skills, the values, the structure, the conflict resolution or conflict transformation piece we just talked about. So we developed a 6-week training that we, in the tribe trainings that we do, we teach people how to take others through it. And what we found is that's even that is difficult, and that those folks benefit dramatically from coaching, from us being available to ongoing literally walking them through it. And we've got, I think we've got some folks online that were our friends, and we coached them for a while. So this would be a good time.
Well, yeah, because it's important to realize that we're going so against our culture and the velocity of our culture that it's important to get coaching helped us step through this. And we've been traveling the last couple months off and on. So we're about to, in October, we'll be starting our coaching again.
So maybe we can get.
But I would love to, Jason, I think let's bring up Peter and Rhonda, because people are probably wondering, what about these people in other places who have engaged with the new tribe training experience and then started? So if we could bring those on. There's several people in the tribe there in Grass Valley, California. Hi, you guys. Rhonda, you guys need to get squishy, like face to face with each other. There now we can see you. So could you guys, this is Rhonda and Peter Clark, and I think back there I see Ellen and Don.
Hello.
Thank you, guys. Just for the people that are on this call, could you speak a little bit about the coaching? Because you said, okay, we're going to do 6 months of coaching every other week, and we pretty much kept to that. And I tell us about how that experience has been for you.
Oh, well.
How's your tribe doing?
Yeah, tribe, it's just been imperative, the coaching that we've received in bringing our tribe together. Absolutely ongoing inspiration, guidance, support, encouragement, love. We've been able to bring that to our group on an ongoing basis. And there are now, how many?
10 of us total.
Yeah.
And I want to add something about going to one of their workshops, because we went up there, we were really clear, we're not doing this. Just some more information. We're not doing it. And by the time on the last day, I don't know whether tribe grabbed us or we grabbed tribe or both, but we realized we were the axis mundi for tribe. We're in. Oh my gosh. And we jokingly said, well, let's not say we did, but there was no way not to. And so we realized that the coaching was what we needed and wanted. And I would say an essential, because this is my first look into community, and it's not at all something that was in my cells or my bones. I didn't have any brothers and sisters, and so I don't know what the rest of you your but gosh, my recommendation is go to the workshop and be open to whatever shows up, and if this is right for you, then do it and connect with Bill and Zoe, so you have this ongoing kind of wisdom really coming through, and they're open to feedback, and we did a lot of that. And
because like they said, stuff comes up, and to have that support from the elders is so, to know that they have our back is really helpful.
And what we're seeing now is that the belonging, which is something I didn't have when I grew up as a little boy in the family or anywhere, is like it's just flowering naturally. And I also said, take your time. Well, our process of the trainings lasted probably 3 months because of schedules and getting everybody together. So we had the meetings in between, and we did whatever showed up that needed to be done. And here we are. We have next week we're getting together, and I think we'll probably have close to I hope all 8 of the provisional members will be saying, I'm in. Yeah, it's happening next week.
Having your commitment meeting.
Yeah.
The person say, we're in.
Don and Ellen, full members.
And you've got a half a dozen waiting for the next wave coming in?
About that.
Yeah, 4 to 8, not sure. Yeah.
4 to 8.
Yeah.
So then some of the other brand new members will be part of the training team for the next bunch coming through?
Yes.
Yeah, and already we're, for months, I think we've been drawing on everyone in the tribe to co-lead the meetings and offer their gift, one of their gifts.
Okay, beautiful. So you've been mentoring them as leaders coming in, so you guys can step back pretty soon.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much. I think you guys get the star for making it come together really fast.
And you get the stars for having worked on this for 30 years. So support
for planting the seed in us so firmly and strongly and beautifully.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Peter.
Yes.
Connect with these two. They're wonderful.
So that's this was just in December that Peter and Rhonda came to
Yeah.
our event in Ashland here
Yep.
for a New Tribe experience. And we call it a New Tribe training experience because we create the experience of tribe for those days.
Yeah, so it's taken them 7 or 8 months to have, you know, their tribe of 10, and the training runs 6 weeks. So they'll, you know, probably by the end of the year, their tribe will be 16, and maybe some more will start coming in.
And I think this would be a good time, if we could, to bring up Marianne and Keith, if that's possible. Peter and Rhonda are in Grass Valley, California, and Marianne Kilkenny and Keith Frederickson are in
Asheville.
Fredericks are in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
So
Not to be confused with Ashland.
no,
Asheville.
there's a lot of ashes though.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah. And speaking, so let's see if it's possible for them to come up and come on stage. I guess this is called the stage.
Yeah.
So
I've been invited, and we're just going to wait for them to accept that invitation.
okay,
okay,
great.
great.
Thank you, Jason.
And this would be a good time for other folks that if you have questions, just I think type them in, and we'll take a look at those and answer, because we're moving into the Q&A phase right now.
And I just want to remind people that we're doing a training on Vancouver Island, September 8th through 10th. So it's going to be a 2.5-day experience at OUR Ecovillage. And if you're interested in getting signed up for that, we still have space. And you can call or email bekindman@mind.net.
Oh, that's
I think it's over there in your chat.
yeah. And Jason, it's slightly wrong. It's just BK instead of
B.
There's no E in the Be Kind.
B as in boy, KIND, Be Kind Man. Or you can email ZOE ALOWAN, Zoe Alowan @mind.net. And that is happening very soon in September. And also you can call Bill and I at 541-482-2335, or my cell phone, which is 530-263-4778. And that has the advantage of we can text, especially if you're in Canada. It's easier to text sometimes. Yeah. I know it's a lot of information, and we'll see if we can get that up.
I'm a low-tech guy, the last living human without a cell phone. So we use Zoe's. It works out great.
Hi, Marianne.
Hey, Marianne. All right.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. And I can attest that he doesn't have a cell phone.
He's a legend.
So are you just finishing up your tribe meeting there in Asheville?
Yes, we actually finished a little bit early, and we sat and watched the first part of this.
Oh, good.
I drove home, and Keith's probably might be online on his phone, but he's another one of those low-tech guys, so
Yeah.
I don't know if he's figured all the cooking and getting through and all that other stuff. So.
Oh, well, it's good to see you, Marianne. And Marianne, could you speak a little bit about the book that you wrote and what made you fly through all those airports all the way to Ashland, Oregon?
Well, I have also been on the quest for community, not as long as you guys, but close. And I had the same experiences. I didn't know it until I went to the tribe training that Bill talked about is, come together, yay, then you turn around and there's no one behind you. So I moved to Asheville to build intentional communities for people as we age. That's why I moved from Northern California to Asheville. That expressed purpose because I don't want to die in one of those god-awful places. I want my peeps around me,
Yeah.
But I got to find the peeps, and my intention was to have a residential community. That's even harder. So So when I read an article first it was the Communities magazine, and I thought, well, let's see. And I called Bill, or I emailed Bill and we talked, and he said, "Oh yeah, you'd be great for the training." But I think the one that there was in Paris, and that was a long way. And so I have friends in Ashland, and I'm from the West Coast, and it was like it made perfect sense. And so I went up, and it was the most remarkable. I mean, it was that part that I really, when Bill said the whole thing about community, and then you turn around, there isn't anybody there. It felt so like, yes, I've been doing this. I think I'm a crazy person, because people will say, "Great idea, go for it. You're the best." Nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't. I mean, because people said this makes so much sense for us to band together and be together and take care of each other.
So how's it coming now?
Well, after bringing 2 trainings to Asheville, we're small but mighty at this point.
Yay.
There are 4 of us now in our tribe who meet every week. We've been meeting every week for 5 months, 6 months, on and off. Yeah. And we have had some really significant experiences, through travail and conflict, and figured out how to continue, and to me, that's the true test of our convictions, and the fact that we have shared values, and the fact that we also are really, truly, truly there for each other, that we can speak to each other and say, "Hey, that hurt my feelings," and we have a vehicle to do it, because you taught us, what are the values, what are important. And then when we start, the challenges for us right now is we're going to have a commitment ceremony.
Good.
We have the equinox in September.
Cool.
And we're planning it now. And then it's expanding. And I think that we're excited about that, but at the same time, it's like we're kind of all like mushed up together.
Sure.
So what happens next?
Coaching.
Is the thing.
More coaching.
Well.
Oh,
yeah,
we
know them. Everybody that's in your tribe has been through our training, so
Yeah.
they've gone through the values and the structure and all that, and the conflict. But the next wave is you training some folks that haven't been through it. So that's coming up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah, absolutely. And it has taken me 3 times at the tribe training. Maybe everybody else is quicker at it than I am.
Well, you inspire us, and that really, your perseverance, and just something that it is daunting in this culture, and yet it's so worth it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and it is so worth it. And I think that is one of the things that we're finding out every single solitary week.
Fabulous.
Tonight we had just, one of those heart-opening, tearful, wonderful, together, that is the kind of thing that you kind of like, well, we don't want to go, but we're going to go do this call.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so, sweet that we find that same problem after our tribe meetings, is you just can't get them out of the house. They hang around and talk and play.
But you have to end on time. You got to end on time. That's very important.
So. Yes, I'm beginning to be aware of that.
Yeah, sign of success.
The interesting thing about our tribe, I think, is that even though I stepped up to be the champion, we all kind of are championing us, because we've been through the training. And everybody every week does, takes it over and really champions. And it's quite lovely. It really is.
Great.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marianne, and Keith, if you're out there. I'm noticing our time, so I'm going to set you free from the stage, Marianne.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Okay, so I just it's time to open up for questions. So if anybody has some questions, we have a few minutes left, and that was one of the things that was important for us, is to be able to answer your questions at this time. So if not, we can always talk about a lot more stuff, because We can talk for days on this.
There are a couple of questions there. Can you see them?
I
No.
cannot. Sorry.
Can you scroll them up?
You can scroll them up, yeah,
Oh,
if you see the chat window.
there we go.
Yes.
There's still room at Vancouver Island Training, yes.
Yeah, we do.
And they've actually, it's called OUR, OUR Ecovillage, and they do this sort of thing a lot. They have a lot of trainings and seminars there, so they got plenty of room.
Yeah. So, and
Just for the record, that's Brandy from OUR Ecovillage asking that question.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Yes, it is. But it's good just to reiterate that this next training is at OUR Ecovillage. You can see this information there if you want to contact her to get more information as well. Because it's happening very soon, September 8th through 10th.
Oh, and we're coming in on Thursday, and I'm going to be available to hang out with the
iGroup?
the MKP guys on the island, and possibly creating an iGroup of some sort.
Oh, so you can say a little bit more about the iGroup?
Well, what that is a men's support group, and so we'll just have a conversation, see if we can deepen that a little bit.
Yeah. So,
I'm looking forward to being there. I've loved talking to Brandy and Jason and Brad and Nate and all the men that are connected there.
oh, and I've heard about OUR Ecovillage for a long time, and that area, and I know that they're doing an amazing job of bringing people together on all sorts of topics, such as Starhawk on permaculture, and we're excited about that. And the max number of people that we could have would be 24.
Yeah, we never take more than that.
We don't take 20, and we like to have it. It usually turns out it's pretty gender balanced. It's interesting how that works out that way. And what people can expect in the new tribe training, well, they can expect surprises. They can expect teaching and practical exercises, things that are they're going to expect that they're going to be given a journal that will contain information that they can take home with them, that will help them to begin this process. And they can expect to share meals together, and movement together, some dancing and singing. And
they can expect to have their love threshold lovingly challenged.
Yeah.
Raise the love threshold.
Yeah.
And we'll also bring copies. We haven't mentioned our book. We wrote a book that we finally put to print in 2011 called We Need Each Other. And that comes from Charles Eisenstein's brilliant teaching about the truth of who we are as humans. We really do need each other. And we don't get near enough intimacy in the general culture. So that's one of the things that I feel really good about, that we actually are bringing that forward into this culture of loneliness and alienation.
And one thing that Parker Palmer, who is a Quaker, talks about community and connection and trust groups, is trust circles, is that it used to be people go out to the barn, in winter blizzards, and they have to tie a rope between the house and the barn so they don't get just kind of annihilated and wander off into the blizzard. And for our time, a tribe or a group of people who really can trust each other is that rope from the barn through the blizzard of the outside world to our home, that rope is each other that can help us out of the blizzard of distraction of multimedia, and there's so much information that's overloading us, and we need each other to have that connection, to anchor us and to remind us of who we really are. All the parts of us are welcome. So I think we're getting close to our end time. One last song. I guess we mentioned.
Oh yeah, good idea.
We mentioned Lawrence Cole, and there is a song that Lawrence Cole set to music, and then somebody, and I think a number of people have done this, but they took this Rumi poem, and then they took a song by
Leonard
Cohen, and they kind of put them together
This is beautiful.
because this is really important as we're learning to be patient with ourselves in this process and learning how to cherish ourselves and feel we're worthy. So the song basically is something you might recognize. Out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. Ring the bell that you can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. So just be patient with yourselves and generous. And as we promised, we're going to bring out this flame. There's our candle.
Here he is, still burning.
And I'm going to ask all of you to join me in blowing out the light of this conversation. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Blessing. Oh, that was great.
Good
That's
work,
really
Jason.
great.
I could hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was an honor to be with you.
Thanks, guys. So grateful for your time, your wisdom. It's so interesting hearing you speak because I think 20 times inside of our brief visit today, you would say something like, there's a whole ream of information. There's 10 years we've done in this little drop. So I get the depth of what you're speaking from.
Yeah,
and you're basically skimming, a whole bunch of touch points.
Yeah.
Required to go deep on building community, whether digitally or, residentially.
Yeah, thanks. I think we covered it in a good way, an enormous amount of depth, as you said. That
there's a lot we didn't get to. So
that's the attraction to come to actually find in depth what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to introduce us to this top level. And how do people? So we've got your phone number, we've got your email, and if people want to know more about the work you do, obviously I've put the book here. We need each other. Are there other ways? Is it the best way for people to follow up on your work and kind of orient to the work that you do? And maybe if people want to host a new tribe training, if they're somewhere else, are you accepting conversations around that?
Sure.
Yeah. Although we're moving more towards creating courses.
As you know, we're kind of topped out on travel, especially international at this point.
Because there is a tribe now that has been going for several years. Our oldest tribe is in Belgium. And then there's this tribe in California that is just taken off in Northern California, and then in Asheville. And others are in various stages. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to feel like it's getting out of there, it's getting rooted. And we're hoping to see some really beautiful things flower out of, Vancouver Island as well.
Salt Springs.
I'm excited to connect with you guys when you're here for sure. Yeah.
Oh, good. That'll be wonderful.
A lot of family waiting to happen.
Yes, exactly.
Well put.
Yeah. And I are we still live with everybody?
We are in this moment.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that conversation about tribe and Indigenous people, I had a really beautiful connection with a close friend of ours who is part Indigenous in his heritage. And he said that the word tribe, I just want to acknowledge the word tribe has been a word that has been loaded with so much for Indigenous people as their cultures were tried to be annihilated and stamped out. I mean, in 1917 here in Oregon, you still, if you brought in a scalp, you get $10. It was only in 1977 that the right to have Sundance ceremony and different sweat lodge ceremonies was even legal again. Yeah. So tribe has carried a very weighty term for Native peoples, even though it's a Roman word that means.
I'm hoping Cleve Michael Justice is still on, because I wanted to share this thing. This is my Salish rattle, which is one of my most precious objects. I always put it on on the altar when we have, you know, a sacred object altar. And this came through him and a Salish shaman he knows, who actually made it for me. My totem animal then was panther, so this is a panther. And I was talking with him, and I said, because I had heard the story about how they initiate the men. One of CM's colleagues at work got initiated, and so I said something to this shaman about it, about how it's how the initiation is back, and he said, "We never left it." So there's something about the native peoples in your general area that it's like they were so far north and so far west that they were probably the least abused of all the native peoples that were harmed as we, you know, ingraciously took over this continent.
British Columbia has a long history of residential schools, and I'm sure that the communities here have been through horror as much as
Yep.
I think so.
we're just coming to terms with that, like the whole world is, and sort of waking up to the amount of damage that has been done.
Yeah, we're getting more conscious all the time anyway.
So we have used this word tribe to mean the closest we can to mean connection and family that is really bonded together. And it's still, there is this conversation always to respect the level of destruction that has and weight that's happened for people who have been burdened with this atrocity.
Yeah.
So I just want to
thank you for bringing that up, and just for obviously the engaging in the question of that.
Yeah.
We're a few minutes over, and I noticed that our guests are kind of dropping off. So let's powerfully wrap this up. And to you, I'll say thank you so much. Everyone's contact information is here. So for those of you that are still with us, if you want more information, you can find it at timefortribe.com or any of the links that are here in the chat. This webinar will be live right after we're done. So you'll be able to review it, share it as you please, and make it available to others. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, not even.
Yeah.
Okay.
We look forward to sharing our
Thanks,
gifts
Jason.
with you.
Beautiful.
Bye, guys.
Bye.